Hello everyone, my name is Keith Richards from agileKRC, and Ellie and Charlotte from the APMG have asked me to come up with a tip and put it on hashtag APMG Midday Mentors. Now the tip I want to share with you today, and I'm actually going to give you two big tips, comes from something that happened to me a long time ago, and I won't say it's life-changing, but it certainly made a massive impact on how I went about my sort of work life, how I worked in sort of corporate cultures, and I feel it stood me in pretty good stead over the years. And I work as a consultant going into lots of different organisations, and one of the biggest things I need from my customers is trust. And one of the ways that I get trust is to use this idea or concept, and I found, as I say, it's really helped me over the years. Now in simple terms, I'm going to explain what it is, but I'd rather you didn't switch off too quickly, because I'm going to explain the power of it and the depth of it and why I think there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. And with the current situation we have, which is why a lot of us are working from home, I want to try and relate it to what's happening at the moment, so you can see that what I'm talking about is extremely powerful. Now in really simple terms, all I'm going to talk about for the next few minutes is the concept of being able to say, I was wrong. Sorry, I got it wrong. My mistake. That is all I'm talking about. Now, what happened to me a long time ago, very long time ago, back in the 80s, I worked for a supermarket called Gateway Food Markets that went on to become Summerfield. And I worked there in the IT department as a contractor, and I remember one incident almost as if it was yesterday. We were working in what were called the depot systems. We had some very important things to do, and we needed the operations team to run a particular job for us. Now what actually happened is we did everything right our end, we filled in the right paperwork, we followed the right processes, and operations forgot to run the job. Now this caused us a lot of pain. My boss was fuming and storming the office a little bit like a caged lion, and we just knew we'd done everything right, and I just remember thinking there's going to be an awful lot of pain, and various things are going to go flying out of the window. This is going to boil over into something pretty nasty. Now what actually happened was, when we knew all our bases were covered and my boss was pretty angry, out of the corner of my eye I could see the person in charge of operations, he was called Steve, coming into the room, and I just remember everyone in the office putting their heads down, getting onto the keyboards and trying to act natural, because we knew this was going to kick off and it was going to be big. And what actually happened was this guy called Steve walked straight up to this guy called Rob, and he just looked him straight in the eye and said, Rob, I've let you down. I've made a mistake. Sorry. He then said he was going to rerun the job in about 2 hours, do various things with backups, and then just turn around and walk back out of the office. Now, the effect of that on the people in the room, and certainly the effect on me, the first word that came to my mind was, wow, I was not expecting that. What he'd actually done was disarm the whole situation. He'd fessed up to the problem. But the thing that, the sort of lasting image for me, was someone who struck me as honest, credible, human, and above all, I would say, quite impressive. Now that image and that particular incident, as I say, I can still see, and I thought, hang on a minute, that's not quite how I was expecting things to happen. It was normally an argument, and you present your case and the other person presents their case, and well, you know, the bit of paper got put under another bit of paper and I got distracted with the phone call, you know, various excuses. But with this guy, absolutely none of it. He just went straight in and said, it's my mistake. Now, I just want to go down a side lane for just a little bit here, because I want to introduce something else into this top tip, so you get a bonus tip, and it's around a framework called Connevin. There's a guy called Dave Snowden. I've met him a few times, very impressive guy, and he came up with this framework called Connevin, which I'm sure a lot of you know of. Just to be clear, it's actually spelt C-Y-N-E-F-I-N. I think it's a Welsh word meaning sort of belonging. but it's not pronounced Sinophin, it's pronounced Kinevin, and it rhymes with Kevin. Now, in this framework, and I won't go into much detail, but I implore you to just spend, if you are working from home, you've got some spare time, spend 30 minutes looking at the work that Dave has done. Please look at the videos that Dave's done. There's a lot of imitations out there that don't quite get the point. But in the framework, he talks about different situations where we have maybe simple situations, business as usual, complicated situations, and then complex situations where things are getting, an awful lot more uncertain. But the final category he's got is called chaos. And when we move into chaos situations, there is no rule book. We can't follow a process. We can't look at a flow chart. We just never been here before. Now, if you think about where we are today with the coronavirus, we're in a chaos situation. There is nothing we can refer to. There's not 10 previous incidents of this that we can refer to and learn from. We're having to find our way and make sense of it as we go along. Now, a lot of people are saying it's a one in a generation. Well, I thought a generation was about 20 years. This is probably a 1 in 100-year event. People are even relating it to Spanish flu in the early 1900s, but there was no air travel, there was no internet. We have just never been here before. We're in a total state of chaos. Now, when you're in a state of chaos, are you going to know everything? Are you going to be perfect? Will you have all the answers? And the truth is, absolutely no, you won't. And in fact, if you can be right more times than you're wrong, I would say that's going to be a pretty good situation. Now, I'm going to give you some examples now, but they will be political. So please, I'm going to try and be absolutely neutral here. So don't think I'm anti-government, pro-government, left-wing, right-wing. I'm just trying to show you some examples, and I will even them all out. But on the television a couple of days ago, one of the government minister, Michael Gove, came on and gave some advice about separation. Namely, if a child belongs to parents who are separated, what must they do? The advice he gave was completely 100% incorrect. Now, first off, we're in a state of chaos here. We're creating guidelines as we go along. The news is changing as we go along, and he made a mistake. Is that understandable? And I would say 100%. Yes, it's totally understandable. I mean, let me give you some real examples that have happened where I've got it wrong in the recent events. There was one theory that we'll take 1 hour off for NHS staff and the elderly to shop together. As soon as I heard that, I thought that's a brilliant idea. One day later, the flaw with that argument, that you're mixing people who may have the virus with people who are vulnerable, became pretty obvious. Now, it might be a lot of you watching this spotted that straight away. Well, I certainly didn't. So what I'm trying to say is we're going to make mistakes. We're going to make things sort of wrong. We are fallible. But in the situation we're in, do we need to actually be honest and say, hang on a minute, I've got that wrong, or I've changed my mind? Now, the situation with Michael Gove, and I'll give you some other politically balanced examples in a moment, was that he made a mistake. Completely understandable. But what happened next, literally within 30 minutes or an hour, was that he went on television to correct the mistake. But what he actually said, and his exact words were something on the lines of, I want to correct what I said. I wasn't quite accurate with what I said. No, you were 100% wrong. As in, you said they couldn't move, and the answer is they could. There's no grey area there. The guy was 100% wrong. Now, for me, in a crisis that we're facing, with experts and ministers giving us information, the thing I most want from them is the truth, so that I can, if you like, repay that with my trust. But when somebody gets something 100% wrong and then said, I wasn't clear, I think, hang on a minute, are you trying to cover something up? Are you trying to protect something? Why would you do that? Now, why would you do that is the big question. Is it because you feel that to, admit a mistake is to show weakness? Well, possibly. Is it because we want to be perfect? Possibly. But actually, wouldn't it have been better to just say, sorry, got it wrong. Things are happening so quickly, I've just got it wrong. Now again, if you look at the recent general election, we had things where, if you like, Jeremy Corbyn and anti-Semitism. We had an amazing moment when Joe Swinson of the Liberal Democrats was being interviewed about a bar chart that was completely misleading, completely bogus, and instead of going, yep, the bar chart is absolutely, it's a mistake, we should never have done it. Instead, she tried to defend it. Now, going back to Steve, the guy that I was talking about at the beginning, you know, when he did what he did, for me, he gave me honesty, integrity, credibility. You know, he seemed human. Whereas what we're getting from experts and politicians is, you know, we don't make mistakes, we get nothing wrong. Now, the key thing here is that in terms of a learning tip for yourself watching this, what I'm sort of suggesting here is you should try to very clearly, if you've got something wrong, almost make a big thing of it. So if you're in a situation where there's various opinions, you've got a problem to solve, and you've got an idea or you've thought something through and it hasn't worked, if in a group of people, and it could even be with children, if you're prepared to stand there and go, hang on, I've got that wrong. I like your idea better. What I find is that people almost, you know, blink twice. Did he really say that? Are you allowed to say you're wrong? And what I find is it gives you more credibility. And bear in mind, I've been in Agile for so many years, and when someone asks me a question and I give an answer that's not very clear, you know, I don't try and, you know, BS or blag it. I basically say, my mistake. I wasn't clear. Let me explain that again. And I find it just gives you lots more credibility. How about the fact you might be at home with your partner, your family, or Skyping or networking with friends and work colleagues? You know, why don't you try this? I think you'll find it amazing. And the interesting thing I say about with younger people, whether it's your children or relations, is that sometimes when you say to a child, no, hang on, I think I'm wrong. I think I like your idea better. You know, they look at you as if, crikey, that's a bit surprising. I thought, you know, as a parent, you're supposed to be right with everything. But the truth is, you're not right with everything. We get things wrong, okay? Now, what's actually going on at the moment, and I'm sorry to get more political, but what we're happening at the moment is something recently has been around something called herd immunity. Now, I don't want to go into the full argument here, but only 10 days ago, we're being told that herd immunity is part of the solution to flatten the curve. Now, by Friday and Saturday, 200 scientists are all sort of going, I'm not sure that's correct, actually. And by Sunday, the idea that it was part of flattening the curve, that had been pushed to one side completely. Now, okay, long term, we're going to need herd immunity, but not right now. Not if we're going to get the NHS to get through the peak. Now, the thing that worries me is why have we not had some sort of, you know, statement about that? Why hasn't somebody said it was a wrong call or it was wrong messaging? Now, here's a challenge for you watching this, is that if the chief science advisor or chief medical advisor, whoever, if one of these really important people that stands up at these press conferences, if they said on camera live, we got that wrong, how would you feel? And I can see it going both ways, because you might go, well, they're supposed to be the experts, they're supposed to know. So it might really destabilise you. Alternatively, you might say, I can trust that person, that they're calling it out. They're telling the truth. Now remember, we're in a state of chaos. We cannot get everything right. But from the experts and from the government, and it would be the same with any government, I feel, nobody's made a mistake yet, which very much worries me. Now, if you're a team leader or you're a head of a department, or even with your friends or your family, you know, do you make mistakes? Do you make wrong decisions? You know, did someone have a better idea and you didn't go for it, and in hindsight I should have picked that idea? You know, where are we going with this idea of perfection? There's a lovely French expression, le mieux de l'ennemi de le bien. And if you're French, please don't put any comments about how bad that was. But what it means is, perfection is the enemy of the good. Good enough. So why aren't we just good enough? We get it right 8 or 9 times out of 10. And then the other time we put a hand up and say, yep, got that wrong. Now I just want to do a point here, and that is, I feel I'd be more confident if, these experts were saying, we went down a wrong avenue there, we've backed up, and we're going down this one now. If you remember 5 or 10 years ago, everyone's going around going, my bad, which was a way, if you like, of saying I was wrong, but trying to say it in a slightly softer way. But what is the message that's come over, particularly, say, on the BBC? The message is the science has changed. I don't know whether you've actually written that down and tried to work out what the heck that means, but if somebody said that to me in a work situation, gave me something almost like a messaging sort of, a coded message, all my antenna would be flying up going, something's not quite right here. Now I just want to end on a work example with a customer I have, and I also want to give you a call to action. So not long to go, but I do want to just give a name check to one of my favourite customers, which is MHR up in Nottingham. I've been working with them for several years now, and where they've got to in the last year or two is an amazing sort of no blame culture, certainly in the function that I'm working with, where they have no issue with saying, I made a mistake, I got it wrong. We have regular stand-up meetings in the mornings. We're quite big stand-up meeting, but they're very good at it. And if somebody says, I couldn't get this done, the test environment wasn't ready, someone puts their hand up and goes, yep, sorry, that was my fault. We're sorting on it, should be ready by 2 o'clock this afternoon. There's just no issue with blame, and people are quick to say, yep, that was my fault. In fact, recently I did a root cause analysis with them on a major howler. They really got something wrong. And when I walked into the room, I thought this could be a bit tense, because I knew there were some people who had clearly laid out the processes and they had not been followed. And it was fantastic to watch people go, no, I didn't follow the process. In fact, I didn't read the document. And someone said, I didn't read the document either. And there was just no tension. People just put their hand up. In fact, it almost got to the point, it was going to be a bit like the scene in Spartacus, where everyone's putting their hand up going, no, I'm to blame, no, I'm to blame. But the truth is, things happen, things go wrong. They're working, some of the work they do they've got products such as People First and TalkSuite. They're in the disruptive area. I wouldn't say in the chaos area, but they're certainly trying to disrupt. Therefore, they can't know everything, they can't get everything right. But if we live in a sort of blame culture, we're going to be paralysed with fear, really. Now, my sort of call to action here is quite simple, and that is, try it in the next 7 days. Now, a lot of you may be cooped up in a house. We're trying our best, if you like, the community spirit. But, with your friends, with your family, or when you're on some sort of, web call, when you're on, Teams or whatever, just try and see what response you get when, if you've made a mistake, you just say, sorry about that, guys, I got it completely wrong. Don't put padding around it. Don't, bleat and start crying and say, yeah, but this and the dog ate my homework. Just say it as it is and see the reaction you get. I think you'll be amazed. Normally, you get a very positive sort of a response. Oh no, it wasn't really your fault. Maybe I should have told you this, or maybe I should have made it clearer. You normally get a very, very good response. But you can try it. Now, go careful. There's a couple of caveats here. If you keep going around saying I was wrong to everyone on everything, you're going to get the opposite effect. People are going to think you may be in the wrong job. And also, I just want to be clear here that when we're in this chaos zone that we are with the coronavirus, that is when we're going to make mistakes. And even on projects that are complex or complicated, we're going to get things wrong. Now, in some domains, we don't really want to be getting things wrong. So if you're sitting in an airplane and the pilot comes over the tannoy and goes, yeah, we're flying at 30,000 feet and we're going southwest, and to be honest, I haven't got a clue what I'm doing here, and there's all these buttons and I'm really confused. That isn't what I'm talking about, okay? Now, if we go to the Cynefin framework, that is when we're in what's called the simple domain. So this is why in those situations, yeah, we don't really want you making lots of mistakes. But where we are now with the virus, we're going to be making lots of mistakes. So anything complicated, anything chaotic, anything complex, you know, what's wrong with saying, hey, I got that wrong. I was wrong. Try it. I think you'll like it. Now, just want to end with saying the whole point here is that we just give some briefings on the hashtag APMG Midday Mentors. Hope you've got something from this, and if you want to put anything in the comments below about how it could be improved, anything you disagree with, you know, if I get a torrent of abuse, then maybe I was wrong to do this. But if I was, I'll put my hand up and say I was wrong. Anyway, hope you got something from the session. Thank you for watching and getting all the way through. Stay safe.